Hey there, MRA, my Real Africanists. This is Marie Ya Jouf, the Real Africanist, and welcome to my channel. If this is your first time here, thank you for coming. And if you have been here before, I would like to welcome you back. Okay, on this channel, I talk about African history, the field of African studies, and current African affairs, right? Also on this channel, I talk about Africa for real, right? I like to try to take historical content and combine it with topics of today so that my audience can understand how history plays a major role in what is happening today, okay? So let's get to today's topic. And yeah, happy Black History Month. This is the last day, right? So I hope you all enjoyed the commemoration of our ancestors and of those who came before us so that we can be here today doing what we like to do, right? And we know Black history is not coming to an end, right? Because Black history is 365 days of the year, 24/7, right? So continue just to be proud of yourself and be proud of those from which you came, okay? So today I wanted to talk about an event that happened last week and how that particular event relates to a topic that I've been wanting to address, okay? So the event that was canceled last week was the Kevin Hart concert, right? The concert that was supposed to happen in Egypt. If you have been following social media, I'm quite sure you probably heard about it. So Kevin Hart was supposed to do a concert in Egypt, but it was canceled because of something that he said a few months back, okay? And so I want to try to relate that to the word that people were using to criticize Kevin Hart, and how this same word is used to dismiss and discredit people of African descent and devalue our experiences and how we feel about those experiences, right? And so the word that I am referring to is Afrocentric, okay? So I know you are probably thinking, okay, what's wrong with Afrocentric, right? What is wrong with that word? What now, right? Because most Black people kind of think of that term Afrocentric as a positive word, but from my perspective, I do not, all right? So I'm going to tell you why. So let's start with Kevin Hart, okay? So from what I understand, Kevin Hart made some statements basically suggesting that ancient Egyptian kings were Black, okay? And some people of the Egyptian community took offense to that, right? Now, we won't really get into the discussion about if they were Black or not, because from the evidence speaks for itself, right? The kings were, the royal family, the Egyptians were actually Black, and they were of Nubian stock, right? And they were Black up until like the late BC years and the early AD years. And that's when this onslaught of invasions and conquests started to pick up, right? And that, so you had the the Persians, the Greeks, the Romans, the Arabs, to all invade Egypt and settle there, right? But at that time, about time that all of that started to happen, most of the glory days of Egypt were about over. All of the pyramids, the Sphinx, and all of the regalia that we basically associate with Egypt had already been produced. It was already there, right? Most of these other groups, with some exceptions, that came in after that, basically they just kind of destroyed things, okay? So again, I'm not going to go into a long history lesson about Egypt because I basically have talked about that enough, right? And that is what it is. it was what it was, right? And we'll let the facts speak for itself, because people are basically going to believe what they want to believe. Even if you have evidence to prove something contrary, they are going to stick with their story, because for some reason, for people, probably including myself, we have this vested interest in what it is that we believe, right? But if you want to find out some more about ancient Egypt, you can go to my blog. I have done a few short blog posts on the subject, right? My blog is at therealafricanist.com, and you can read up on some information about Egypt, right? And I also posted a few books on my book list, which is also included on my blog. So if you want to know more about Egypt, or Kemet, which it was historically called, which means the land of the blacks, right? Then you can find that out on my blog, right? And so I would like to preface that with saying that I am not an expert on Egypt by any means, but there are plenty of black scholars out there who are. I mean, there's the phenomenal Ezra Kwesi, also our brother Tony Browder, right? Both of these brothers are well versed on Egyptian history, and they also take study groups back and forth, to Egypt, right? So if you are interested in going to Egypt, our brothers Ezra Kwesi and Tony Browder would be somebody that you may be interested in looking at, right? And also Jay Cameron, right, of Maximum Impact Travel. Our brother Jay is also taking people to Egypt now. I think it was yesterday that I saw a video about trips that he was taking to Egypt. So you can go to Jay's channel, Maximum Impact Travel, and check that out if you are interested in going to Egypt, right? And also, I don't want to forget to mention the late greats scholars, right, who spent their lives, dedicated their lives to studying the ancient Kemetic history, right? So that's like Dr. Asa Hilliard, Dr. Yosef Ben Yaknin, right, who I'm going to talk about later. Of course, the Senegalese multi-talented genius, Dr. Sheikh Anta Diop, who actually proved that the ancient royal Egyptian families were indeed black, right? And he proved that through a melanin test that he actually created that measures the amount of melanin in your body, right? And of course, people of African descent or black people have more melanin in their body. And so Dr. Anta Diop proved that these mummies of these royal families actually had high levels of melanin in their body, so they were indeed black, right? And also, I'm going to leave you a description in a link in the video at the bottom of the video, right, that shows a reaction to this European Egyptologist when he found out that the Egyptian royal mummy that he had been searching for, right, or that his team had been searching for, was black, right? It was kind of funny, but the case was proven, right? And he was shocked by that, because he said out of his own mouth that he was told that this particular Egyptian mummy would be of Mediterranean stock, and it wasn't true, okay? So, but back to what I was saying. From what I understand, and according to thegriot.com, which is an online black news site, after Kevin Hart made these statements regarding these Egyptian kings, right, there was a huge backlash on Twitter condemning his comments, right, and basically saying that the followers of Kevin Hart were Afrocentric, or they prescribe to this belief, this Afrocentrism belief system, and they wanted to steal Egyptian civilization and attribute it to African people, right? So this Twitter person, or this person who put out this tweet, encouraged all the Egyptians to participate in the campaign to cancel Kevin Hart's concert, right? Can you imagine that, right? Just wanting to cancel a concert because he said something as simple as the ancient Egyptians were black, But I'm not surprised because that's how they get down, okay? But apparently and evidently that's what happened. I mean, the production company actually ended up canceling the concert. And they canceled the concert just a couple of days before Kevin was supposed to perform, right? And like I said, that took place last week sometime. But the thing that was interesting to me was that the concert was canceled just about 2 days before he was to perform. But all of this ruckus started about 2 months ago, right? So they had been calling, right, for the concert to be canceled starting about 2 to 3 months ago, right? But they waited, the production company waited to the last minute to cancel the production, right? And so to me, that was kind of cold, to wait to the last minute to do that. They cited some type of logistical issues, and that's why the concert was being canceled. But it just seems rather odd to me that they would wait to the last minute to cancel it, and all of a sudden you have logistical issues in the midst of all of this controversy going on about what he said. Okay, but I'm not surprised, because this is the kind of stuff that happens. And it's happening more and more often because, African people are discovering their history, right? And they are sharing their history with the world. And again, this kind of stuff happens as a way to push back against the black people that are uncovering the untruths that have been told, right? And now technology is making it easier for us to, discover the truth and to share the truth with the world. And a lot of people just don't like it because, these historical narratives have benefited them and not us as people, right? Also, though, in this on thegrio.com, it was said that Kevin has been facing scrutiny for investing in an animated series that some people say promotes what they call, again, Afrocentric views, right? There that word is again. And, I remember a couple years back when Kevin Hart was doing some kind of Black History project, but for some reason I thought that it was, just a Black History thing, and that it was like a book series or something like that. But I hadn't heard anything else about it, so I hadn't been following it. But obviously, the series, the animated series, is very popular, right? But I am, I'm quite sure that Kevin Hart is not tripping off of it. He can absorb the loss, right? I'm quite sure his money's long enough that he didn't really need that concert, okay? And I was watching a video by the Unapologetic Nomads last week. Yes, I am. I'm a YouTuber groupie, right? I'm always on YouTube. And they had just attended a Kevin Hart concert in Abu Dhabi. They are there now. And then he was in South Africa before that, right? He was supposed to do 2 shows, but he actually ended up doing 3 shows. They added another show by popular demand, right? And I also heard that Trevor Noah showed up to the show, right, as a guest, right? He introduced Kevin Hart, right? And I heard when he showed up and came onto the stage, everybody just went wild, right? Because I think we all know that Trevor Noah is from South Africa, right? So I bet you that was really cool, right? I heard that the show was a huge success, so that's good for Kevin and for Trevor and for South Africa, right? And then I checked Kevin Hart's social media channels, and I haven't seen anything. I hadn't seen him say anything about the incident. So again, I guess he's not even thinking about it, right? He's fine, but I'm not, right? And I'm not trying to be petty, and I'm not all right because the show was canceled, right? I'm not all right again because of this whole term Afrocentric or Afrocentrism, right? And the way they use certain terms basically to, like I say, dismiss and to disvalue people of African descent, right? So that's what I really want to talk about, right? And when I saw that word used in reference to Kevin Hart, I just thought that would be an interesting way to bridge these two topics together, okay? So in the field that I am in the educational field, right, this term Afrocentric is used a lot by European scholars, basically, again, to dismiss, to devalue, to discredit, right, to invalidate black scholars and black educators, their scholarship, their intellectual pursuits, basically their work, right, their body of work. This term is used to discredit their body of work, right? And it's used, again, to create these hierarchies that I talk about, right? These hierarchies to say one thing is superior to the other, right? To basically say that black intellect and black scholarships are not equal to or on par with that of other ethnic groups, but especially European, right? Europeans, unless they cherry pick or hand pick you as a black educator or scholar that they feel is safe, or who they feel who basically agree with them on their perspective on African history, right, or African affairs, okay? And again, like I say, this is the kind of stuff that really ticks me off for real, right? Because I have seen it so much, right? I have seen how they play this game. I mean, in this instance, we are talking about Egyptians, right? And we know that the Egyptians, or the people that occupy Egypt now, they are not African people, but they are basically a European and Arab ethnic group, right? Mixture. But unfortunately, in some ways, many of them still feel that they are superior to black Africans, right? That's just the way it is. Again, like I say, I don't like to really feed all of this different racism and division and all of that, but on my channel, I'm just going to tell it like it is, and that's how it is, right? I mean, we can look at the present day conditions of the Nubian people that live in southern Kemet, right? And we can see how they are treated, and we can see how the conditions that they live under, and we see the blatant disregard for these people, and we see the clear example how these hierarchies exist, right? And again, like I say, I'm not saying that all Egyptians think this way. When I talk about issues, I'm not talking about individuals or individual relationships or these everyday people that we know or that we hang around, right, that do not control anything. I'm not trying to lump everybody together or put everybody into certain groups. As a matter of fact, on this channel, let's try to keep it respectful and just present the facts as they are, right? I'm not here to be, calling people all of these derogatory names, but if I use the term white or European or, or black or whatever the case may be, that's just what it is, and there's no way to get around that, right? But for clarification's sake, I'm just explaining this to you, you know. So again, you know, people won't go on this whole trip about, you know, not everybody, you don't speak for me and all of that, right? You know, it's a habit. People say they, them, and all of that, okay? But when I'm saying them and when I'm saying they, I'm talking about collective groups, right? I'm talking about leaders of these collective groups within certain races that are in position, right? Who social engineer societies and promote policies that benefit members of their own race at the expense of other races, right? And so that's what I mean when I say they or them, and that's just a real deal, okay? So, like I said, this term Afrocentric, okay, it is often used and most often used by Europeans or, again, Eurocentric scholars, because, again, we have scholars sometimes from other ethnicities that want to be European, okay? And they use these type of terms to degrade black scholars. And like I say, what really teased me off is that they use these terms to degrade, preeminent scholars like Dr. John Henry Clark, you know, some of these Dr. Ivan Van Sertima, Dr. Sheikh Anta Diop, you know, Leonard Jeffries, you know, some of these people that have dedicated their entire life, you know, Dr. Chancellor Williams, to studying the history of African people, right? And have sacrificed their money and their time to write or change the narrative and write narratives that, you know, are accurate, right? Even one of my favorite, who I'm going to talk about in a minute, and that's Dr. Yosef Ben Yakinen, right? They really used that word when it came to Dr. Ben, is what we call him, because, you know, he was this kind of scholar like myself. And like a lot of the names that I just mentioned, they are scholars, they are educators, but they activists at the same time, because they had to be, right? Because they're always having to fight the orthodoxy of European scholars and European scholarship as it pertains to the African narrative, okay? Again, like I say, these scholars, including Dr. Ben, they have done a lot of work and they have amassed a large following. And so those are the ones that they really try to discredit, right, and to invalidate, okay? So when it comes to Dr. Ben and this word Afrocentric, if you look at up Dr. Ben, right, if you look him up on Google, basically you'll find the standard, the Wikipedia, and also, you know, again, like I say, a lot of these other articles that, you know, are just so derogatory when it comes to the legacy of Dr. Ben. But when I looked up Dr. Ben on his Wikipedia page, right, you should have seen this page, right? It was horrendous, okay? Now, I know that Wikipedia is not considered a dependable source of information, but I learned when I was in college, and I was a returning college student, right? I went back to college, that Wikipedia is a good place to start for research, right? It's a good place to find research sources, because these sources are listed in the reference section below, you know, each article, right? And I have found that to be true, and I also found that to be helpful, right? And also, you know, Wikipedia, to give the platform credit, it does offer a lot of truth sometimes, okay? However, like I said, when you read this article about Dr. Ben, it was just atrocious, right? It was riddled with all type of accusations of Afrocentrism, you know, accusing him of lying about his parents, accusing him of lying about his ethnicity, right? Which probably was because Dr. Ben was an Ethiopian was of Ethiopian Jewish heritage, right? His mother was Puerto Rican, but his father was a black Jew, right? And he talked about a lot of times in his work how black Jews are ostracized and mistreated by white or European Jews, right? So they really didn't care that much for Dr. Ben, right? But in this article also they accused him of falsifying his academic credentials, right? And they said that he claimed to have graduated from a number of universities that they could not find any evidence to support that he had attended. Now, you're like, I'm not sure if he falsified his academic credentials or not, but one thing I can say is that with all of his educational background and with all of his hands-on training, he is an Egyptologist, and he has been to Egypt, numerous amount of times, right? He have taken thousands of people to Egypt, right, on study tours. With all of this in his background, he was just as credentialed as anybody that have graduated from one of these Western institutions with a PhD, right? And like I say, a lot of times I have found over the course of my own life that a lot of these people, they write about these subjects and they have never even stepped foot on the African continent, right? But then our foremothers and fathers who have, like I say, sacrificed and made these pilgrimages out of their own money, out of their own pocket, right? Had to fund their own research, right? Had to do a lot of the research themselves. They didn't have enough money to, pay for team members and all of this, right? They want to try to discredit them, okay? But we cannot allow that to happen, right? We got to continue to lift up our scholars and continue to trust in the scholarship that they provided, okay? And also, Dr. Ben, he worked at Cornell University, right? And I just can't believe that he worked at Cornell University for 15 years, right? A prestigious school like that, and they never checked his academic credentials, right? I can't believe it, but, that's what the article says, but whatever. But also, the article it referenced another article that was featured in the New York Times, which I did find after a little research. And again, this article is no better. This article was entitled "Contested Legacy of Dr. Ben, a Father of African Studies," right? And it was written by a Jewish person, a writer named Sam Kestenbaum, right? But ironically, it was written after Dr. Ben's death in 2015, right? And it seems as if this guy Sam intentionally, defamed Dr. Ben's legacy by using, his own opinions that had been truly disguised, as fact, to raise questions about the authenticity of the academic degrees, again, that Dr. Ben had, and also his personal life, right? Calling him an imposter and a fake, right? Which I really, take issue with, okay? Dr. Ben was 96 years old when he joined the ancestral realm, right? So why wait to our elder passes away, to write something like this about him, right? To just basically discredit him in such a negative and intentional way, because it sounds so intentional, right? And I know that if it was a black person that was doing this and were making these hateful and unsubstantiated accusations or remarks about somebody Jewish, right, we know what would have happened, right? Anti-Semitic would have been all on the tongue of every Jewish person that right? And so that's why I feel that it's unfair for them to do that to African scholars, and that's why we need to speak out, right? Because we have pride too, and we have undergone tremendous psychological and physical damage, right? Actually the worst, right? A system of bondage and suffering, right? What about the Holocaust that our people have endured, right? The transatlantic slave trade, the East African slave trade, right? The sub-Saharan slave trade. What about what happened on Shark's Island in Namibia, right? What about what happened in the Congo under King Leopold, right? And we're not going to even talk about this whole colonial era thing, right? And what happened then, right? And what happened with the domestic slave trade here in America, and and the things that have happened to our people all over the face of the world, right? So basically, like I said, we have to call people on the carpet who disrespect and disregard our scholars and our leaders as well, right? So anyway, you should have seen a picture also. That's another thing that kind of upset me, the picture that they used on the article. And I don't know how they got access to this picture. I can't imagine Dr. Ben allowing this person in to photograph him, right? He may have, maybe he thought it was going to be some type of favorable article, but I'm not sure. But I just can't imagine that. But anyway, he had this a picture, right? It's a large picture, but you have Dr. Ben sitting there with his arms folded, right? He has on his African garb, he has a kufi on, but he's sitting there like this with his hands folded, right? Head down, looking very sickly, right? Just basically looking like he's at the end of his life, right? Looking like the shell of the man that he used to be. Okay, then they got some little things hanging up from the ceiling, right? And like I say, the picture is set so that he looks like he's just, a little bitty man on this big gray background. Okay, and if anybody knows Dr. Ben, he was so charismatic and vivacious. Vivacious. Okay. Excuse me, sometimes I talk fast, I'm getting ahead of myself because, this is the kind of stuff and blatant disrespect that we as African people have to continue to put up with, but we have to continue to fight back, right? And that's why I will continue to fight back and speak for our ancestors and for those that are not here to defend their own legacy and to speak for themselves, right? Again, on this Wikipedia page, right, they quoted this Wellesley professor, and Wellesley is a college here in the United States. Her name is Marie Leibowitz, right, who I consider an anti-black scholar, right, but they refer to her as a, guess what, anti-Afrocentric scholar, right? And they use some quotes that she made to continue to justify their belittlement of Dr. Ben, right? This lady, Marie Leibowitz, she wrote a book called Not Out of Africa and Black Athena Revisited, right? And Black Athena Revisited, I think both of the books, right, were basically about her pushback against this author, Martin Bernal, who wrote a book called Black Athena. And Black Athena was basically saying that the ideologies and of Greek civilization were heavily influenced by African civilization, right? And that Greek civilization got a lot of their the things that people consider unique to Greek civilization was basically just a copy of, African civilization, which again is true, okay? But you might, like I say, be familiar with this Marie Leibowitz woman, right? She was very vocal when it comes to different African scholars, right? She was very quick to call them Afrocentric. right? She had a public dispute with this one scholar named Tony Martin, and Tony was from Trinidad, right? He was a Trinidadian and Tobago scholar, but he worked at Wellesley College as well, right? And he wrote a lot about Marcus Garvey, but they got into a big dispute again over what he felt like was the efforts of the these European and Jewish academic institution to control the African narrative, basically. And a lot of times it's actually true, okay? But anyway, Mary Lefowitz, she accused Dr. Ben of promoting pseudo history, and in the article she quoted, and this was in the New York Times article, she quoted it. She says, "It's a myth that white people have taken away history and hidden the truth. It's all more complicated than that, right?" But I'm pushing back on that and say, no, it's not more complicated than that. It's very simple, and that is the truth. They have hidden and they have suppressed African history, right? The truth about history, okay? And so when she says pseudo history, she's basically saying that, Dr. Ben and these other African scholars are basically rewriting history to make it fit what their research, has proven or has determined, right? And so, this is the kind of stuff, again, that our African scholars and that African people are up against, okay? Because obviously, this Mary Lefowitz lady, she said, and I know this one is going a little long, but stick with me, right? Because it's important that we know these things, and once we know these things, we have a better understanding of, why things are like they are today and how things got to be like they are today, right? But obviously, Dr. Ben was given a lecture at the college that she worked at, right? And he said that Aristotle stole his philosophy from the Library of Alexandria, right? And so the Library of Alexandria was located in Kemet in Egypt. And so she said after the speech that he was giving, she confronted him and said, "So how is it possible that Aristotle stole his philosophy from the Library of Alexandria when the library wasn't built until after Aristotle's death," right? And so I believe Aristotle died in about maybe 320 something BC or something like that, right? I don't know if I have the BC and AD right, but it was something like that, okay? Which, was a, it was a fair question, but so Dr. Ben, he answered, his response was that the founding date of the library was uncertain, right? That scholars are not sure when the library was founded. And so, of course, I went back and I kind of did a little more research on that as well. I never have thought before to look up the dates about the Library of Alexandria. So I looked up the dates, and from my perspective and what I can see, yes, the founding dates of the library are uncertain, right? Some people attributed the founding of the library to, Ptolemy the First. I think some contributed to his son, and some even contributed to the ideas of someone that came before both of them. However, they really don't have an agreed upon date of when the library was founded. So what Dr. Ben actually said was true, right? But the main reason, again, that a lot of these scholars didn't care for Dr. Ben was because, again, he was outspoken, and he really didn't care, right? He just said what he was going to say, and he let the chips fall where they may, right? And another thing is that he was really good friends with Minister Louis Farrakhan, and he also left his library, which contained 35,000 volumes of work, to the Library of the Nation of Islam, instead of leaving them to, you know, these mainstream libraries or to these mainstream other black institutions, but black institutions that are founded or that are funded by these larger white institutions. Okay, so I'm not going to leave the link to either article, to the New York Times article or the Wikipedia article, right? Because I don't want to make it that easy for us to find this blatant disrespect of Dr. B and our ancestors, you know, who gave so much of himself to educate the African and African diaspora community, but was insulted by these people. But I will leave a link to an article that about Dr. Ben's life and legacy that was jointly written by 7 well-respected and well-credentialed African American scholars and educators, and you can check that out. And like I said, if you want to find that article, it's not that hard to find. That New York Times article is out there, right? But again, they didn't just use this Afrocentric term towards Dr. Ben. They used it towards Dr. John Henry Clark, towards Dr. Sheikh Anta Diop. You know, a lot of our women scholars, Frances Cress Welsing, they used it, you know, towards her. I can't think of the other scholar, Patricia. I forget, right? But it's another woman scholar who was very popular, also with her assessment of African and Egyptian history, right? And also, you know, there was another word, right, that I kept running across when they talked about black scholars and educators and historians, right? And that was this word, autodidact, right? AUTODIDACT, and this word basically means self-taught, right? It's meaning that, like I say, you were self-taught, that you were an independent scholar, you know, you know, again, just another word to devalue the scholarship of our scholars and our educators, okay? Because most of these scholars were not self-taught. They had formal education, right? But again, in order to create this hierarchy and to say that they basically, you know, what they were teaching is not comparable to what the European scholarship or the scholars are teaching, or what they are teaching, you know, is basically just this, you know, black stuff, right? They do these kind of things. They keep throwing these kind of words around. So I just want you to be aware of the subtle things that are done in the area of academia, right? To, like I say, disrespect black scholars and their work, right? I mean, I don't want to keep on going over and over this or beating a dead horse, but, you know, it's like when they label young black boys and girls here in America like, you know, inner city youth. You know, they come from a challenging environment, right? They are academically challenged, right? They come from single parent homes. You know, like I say again, a way to separate us from mainstream population, right? You know, they have these issues, they have troubles, right? You know, they are something else with all this labeling. You know, this is how, like I say, they create these divisions to continue to divide up people over and over again. You know, it's like when they refer to African nations as underdeveloped or third world nations, you know, or they refer to our leaders, especially the leaders that won't allow them to control them, or the leaders that they have controlled and now they are done with them because the leaders have seen the light, so they label them dictators, right? And so they label them dictators because now we know the next step. Now it's time to take them out, right? So first they have to degrade them in order to justify what they are going to do to them, right? The same thing that happened to us, in these systems of enslavement and in colonization, right? Yes, I'm saying it again, right? They wanted to degrade us first, call us heathen, right? Anti-Christian, or whatever they want to call us, people without souls, because they want to justify what it is that that they were getting ready to do, or what it is that they did to us, right? So I just kind of wanted to talk about that a little bit, right? So like I say, just kind of be aware of these terms, Afrocentric, radical, right? Black nationalists, right? That's another term. Back then they really used to call us they're radical, right? When you're pushing back against a system that is blatantly, radical against you, then you are the one that is radical or radicalized, right? Or you a black nationalist, okay? Somehow you want, you are, somehow trying to make you wrong for wanting, equal rights for yourself and your people, right? And also this other term, angry, and I hear that coming from not only, European people and other ethnic groups, but also I hear that coming from our own people. If Black people, if they are, upset and they're talking about the injustices that have been done against us, throughout history, then we angry. Why are you still angry? Why are you so angry? Like I said, I'll talk about that another day, but anger is just an emotion. The thing about this is that why are you walking around, smiling and faking the funk all the time, and then inside, you're dying, right? You're basically being eat up by all the things in your life that have, have shaped your life, that have harmed you, that have hurt you, right? We here in America, a lot of us, we are good at putting on a front, making like everything is all right, right? When it's really not all right, right? And so there's nothing wrong with being angry. The thing about it is that you don't let the anger control you. You don't let the anger drive you. But there's nothing wrong with being angry about situations that you should be angry about, right? I remember one time me and my mom, right, we got into a discussion about that. I was an adult, but, I try not to raise my voice or whatever with my mom, but this particular time we were talking about something, and she said to me, why are you so angry? What I don't understand is, you have never had to put up with that, so why are you angry? And my response was, well, I'm not really angry, but yes, it bothers me and I'm upset. But what I don't understand is why you all are not angry, right? That's the thing that I don't understand, but really I do understand, because, a lot of times we were just fed, these religious doctrines that, were teaching us, not to be angry, to forgive and forget, what would Jesus do? Or this whole thing is like everything is already written. So, if it happened to you, then it must have been meant to happen. God, it was all in the plan. No, it wasn't in God's plan. It was in their plan, okay? It was in the God that was in them, or whatever you want to call it, right? It wasn't, how can, and well, like I said, I won't even get off onto that, but, no, just no, outright no, that's not it. And, I can't go along with that. But again, like I say, I don't let the anger drive me. I don't let it consume me, right? But sometimes being angry about a situation can change your life, right? if you're angry about your life conditions or, some things in your life that are not going right, sometimes that anger can fuel the change that you need, right? So don't let people use all of these little subtle strategies and terms to, like I say, invalidate you and to degrade you, right? I mean, and not only, like I say, outside people. I'm talking about people of your own family, your own race, your own nationality. I've actually heard people say, especially in the field of academia, black people to say, well, a black person wrote that, right? A black person said that, so of course they gonna say that. You be like, be for real, right? So that's the litmus test, right? So if what about all these other sources, that outnumber the works that we have that are all written by other ethnic groups, right? So if they say that, of course they gonna say that, but they don't think of it like that. So it's mind-boggling to me, right? If it's white, it's right? But if it's black, you better get back, right? Because it's not happening, right? But it's 2023, and we basically need to get over that, okay? So and also, one last thing before I go, I just want us also to stop using these different terms towards each other, right? Stop using the term this term Afrocentric. I hear it all the time, especially here, like I say, when people talk about other black people who might, dress in African attire, or they try to showcase a little of their culture in their hairstyles or in their attire. You hear it all the time. She dressed Afrocentric, or his hairstyle is Afrocentric. No. It's not Afrocentric, it's African, right? We are African people, and we are reflecting the people that we are, okay? I know most of our people, when they say it, they don't mean it to be derogatory or dismissive, but sometimes they do, right? They think it's strange, she Afrocentric, she dressed like that. And it's basically saying that you are trying to be something that you're not, that you are not. That's different. That's odd. That's not standard. That's not basically like the Europeans, right? That's something different. What do you know about that? What you know about African people, right? You just trying to be something. No, not trying to be anything. I am. I am African. African I am, and I'm proud to be, okay? So I'm just getting ready to sign off. Right, and so again, I just wanted to speak on that, and also, just to end with this, it's ironic that the name of Kevin Hart's tour was Reality Check, right? Because unfortunately, that's what our brother got, right? He got a reality check, okay? And like I said, I don't think it bothered him, but I hope that's what we all got out of the whole concert incident. I hope we all got a reality check, okay? And the reality check is that most people, they still don't believe that African people have a history and that predates enslavement, right? And if they do believe they have a history, they believe that it was insignificant in the whole scheme of things, right? And more so that we, the people who the history belonged to, are not qualified, to tell our own history, right? And if we do, you have these people that are here and willing and ready to push back on you or, shut you down in any way that they are empowered to do so, right? So again, this is the last day of Black History Month, and I just want to encourage my people out there to just keep on pushing, keep on telling our stories, the truth about our stories, no matter what anybody say, right? So that our young people, those that are coming behind us, will know the reality of who we were, the reality of who we are now, and the reality of who we are yet to become, right? We have to keep on talking, and we have to keep on teaching about Africa for real, for real. Okay, this is Marie Ya Jouf. I'm signing off, right? Again, I went a little long this time, but I hope you stayed with me, okay? And remember to like, comment, share the video, right? And also to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done so, right? And hit the notification button so you can be the first to get notified when I put up another video, right? And I will see you next time. Remember, fight the power, peace, one Africa, one love.